And welcome, everyone. It is John the Net Guy, and welcome to a very rare Friday night stream. Hopefully, you guys are having a great evening. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay. That was one thing that I was just testing out here, and it's kind of hard to tell with all the audio devices and whatnot, as you know. But I've got a couple things I want to do right away. Haven't started the Amazon Live yet because I can't tell you about giveaways on Amazon. Amazon changed the rules recently. So I can't ask you for any personal information, and I need personal information to send you this. This is a Benchtop multimeter. It's a desk multimeter, but it also has app control, a bunch of really cool stuff. I am going to show you that product. If you're one of my friends that knows how to get a hold of me in the Discord, I'm working on a way to do a fair and proper drawing. So thank you guys for tuning in here. I see a couple people already. Just double checking to make sure I can see. Oh, there's people showing up now. So if you're just tuning in, it is John the Net Guy. We're doing a Friday night Tech Day Live. This is the third show of the year. I was just talking about some giveaways that I'm going to be doing and the fact that the Amazon people don't get to play anymore in our giveaways. And that's unfortunate. I do have a little bit of a different setup today because it's going to be more chill. I'm actually going to get to sit down for once, which is going to be awesome because usually I do the entire show standing up, but I am going to show you a few products first, and then we're going to make a FM radio together, hopefully. Knock on press board or whatever this is. So it is a soldering project. If you guys haven't done soldering before, don't worry about it. I got a whole bunch of cool products that we're going to go over today that'll make soldering easy. It is one of those skills that you can save yourself thousands of dollars in your life if you just know how to solder, connect broken wires, and generally do handyman type stuff with electrical. Oh, Cesar. And we got a couple people showing up here. I got to say hi to a couple people. Cesar Miranda says, hi, everyone. Thank you, my friend. Welcome here. You're all welcome. And Jeremy is already in. He says, we're here. Let me know how I sound. And oh, you know what? John Hardwick, he's in here on the face space. He says, pound truth. Absolutely. So I'm going to show you some stuff. It's going to go from beginner to really cool stuff that I use. Some of this I was just looking at it. I've had one of these solder stations I use for over 3 years, and it's worked out great. It's got some advanced features. You may or may not need that. So without further ado, let me turn on the Amazon side here so we can get them ready and rolling. But like I said, I can't tell you about the giveaway that I'm going to be doing later, but I will put some information out on my socials, so you're going to be good. Oh, great. Bit rate received is too high. Recommend adjusting your encoder settings. So guess what? This is not going to be an Amazon live show, so I can talk about that. I'm not even going to deal with the Amazon folks tonight, but I will go through everything. We don't need the Amazonians. Okay, you know what I need to do? I need to be like a no Amazon stream pound whatever on here, but no, I might have to rebroadcast this, but we'll see. Let me go ahead and put some captions out here. If you do want to see the products that I'm using, if you visit my Amazon shop, which link is down there, the Amazon/shop/the net guy, you're going to get a page that looks roughly, let's see, going to share a window like this that says I'm going to go live here shortly, but it's not going to be live shortly. Actually, give me a second. I can fix that. I want to let the Amazon people in. Let me see if I can just add them as a custom RTMP destination. Give me 1 second here. We'll get them in here just so nobody misses out. But if you visit that URL, you're going to see the Amazon list here. If you go down to my idea list number 3 here, Tech Day Live number 3, these are all the products I'm going to show you tonight. So got some really, really cool stuff. Zotac, I have to say, sponsored this show. So they put the 2 items out there. I also have a really interesting 24-volt AC transformer with a really long cord. So why do you need that? Well, if you're using a smart thermostat with maybe an older dumb furnace, this is a really good way to get your smart thermostat working. I also have some solder paste. So if you're going to be doing some sort of soldering, it is really nice to have some flux to help things adhere and stick right. We'll show that. I got another cool product that was sent out by the vendor, which is actually a 2-in-1 12-volt to dual USB 3-amp 5-volt output device. I'm going to use this in my boat. I've got a Fire TV and a couple other USB things like LED lights I want to run, but I don't want to have a cigarette lighter and then something else and something else. So we're going to see that up here today, which is pretty cool. And then I'm going to go through some benchtop tools that you might want, like a power supply, which is what I've got right here. This is the power supply that I use. I've had it for a while. Then we're going to get into probably the lowest cost soldering iron kit I could find on Amazon for $12. So there's no excuse that you don't have a soldering iron yet. So for $12, you're going to be able to get a soldering iron that works. So we're going to test it out here. We'll go through some tips on how to use it best. And then this thing that you see in front of me here, this nice silicone mat is going to protect your table, desktop, garage counter, whatever it is that you're working on. And it'll also protect your electronics because it's not conductive. And this is good for almost 1,000 degrees. So you're not going to burn it, which is great. Then I'm going to go into a more advanced solder station, but it's not going to break the bank. This is not the Heiko, whatever, the really expensive ones. But this is going to be a good solder station that has a lot of features and comes with some accessories. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up when I'm going to click on this just to show you here is this DIY radio kit. I was like, I got to find something fun that I want to build myself, that I want to use. It's not going to be incredibly hard, and we're going to throw this together. So if this takes me 30 minutes, it might take me 30 minutes. Don't get bored. But let me go ahead and see if I can quickly get our Amazon folks on. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on that because I do want to make sure it goes there. Oh, and you can't swear on the stream. Is that swearing? Well, since Amazon's not working yet, he's not late. So welcome there to Jonathan Talks Hardware, another great YouTuber. I love that. Jeremy says, I love having those long rectangular burns. Oh, yes. The soldering iron burns. Let's hope I don't burn myself doing some soldering today. So give me 1 second here to ixnay the Amazon folks. I'm going to go ahead and add a destination real quick here. Hopefully they can do the transcoding. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can set up transcoding for that destination here. It's not worth it. We're going to skip the Amazon folks tonight. Let me set up a couple things. I can't even do the carousel, sadly. Sorry, Amazon. I probably should have tested that before I went live, but we're going to have fun anyway. It's a Friday night. Let me know what you guys are doing tonight. If you want to, let me know what state you're in, and I can post that up here. And if you're talking on the YouTube chat, I'm on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the studio AC because it's already 73 degrees in here, and it's going to get hotter as we do things. Another interesting thing is make sure you've got good ventilation when you're working with solder and the fumes and all that. I'm probably going to crack the door here just a little bit. I do have some AC that's going to move some air around, so that'll be great here. There we go. Going to give away a desktop power supply. Close. I'm going to give away, now that I can do that, we'll find a way to do this. This is from Zotac. This is, and I'm going to show you on the cool side camera. This is the close-up cam I just set up tonight, so I can show you some close-ups of it. But this is a benchtop multimeter that has an app for your phone, so you can track it anywhere. You can see what your voltages are, almost like an oscilloscope, and it has a Bluetooth speaker built in, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to give away that, but I'll come up with some rules or something on the Discord that meet YouTube's policies. I just want to let you guys know that will be a giveaway item here in the future. But let me get started here. I need to go back to the beginning. Let's talk about this silicone mat. So this is the one that I purchased many years ago. I've continued to use it. It might have a little scuffs. There's actually some CPU thermal compound right here that I literally cannot get off no matter what I do. CPU thermal paste, if you guys know, is incredibly hard to get rid of. But having a mat like this as a surface to work on is incredibly valuable. It's going to make things a lot easier to see, repair. It has all of these little tiny indentations here. Let me go down on the top down for you guys here, and I'll get you nice and close to it. So you can see here, hopefully it focuses on my hands. There we go. So it has these little indentations for screws. If you're working on a laptop, cell phone, anything, this can be really, really valuable to put your screws in there. Larger indentations for parts on the side. So if you're putting ICs or connectors or stuff, you can organize them that way. Let me get this back out here. And so that's another neat option. It does have a hanging hook. You may have seen it in a few of my videos hanging off. I have some screw holes there, and I literally just hang it off into the corner. But we're going to keep this thing out here today. This is kind of our platform to build on, and we're going to work everything off of this. And it's also going to protect this teak top. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully you guys are interested in something like that, because this is incredibly valuable. The price on this one is ridiculously cheap. Let me pull that up real fast. I want to make sure I get you the right number. There is a sale on it, which it's kind of funny. A lot of the Amazon stuff, you'll see it's like on ridiculous super sale. So if I go in here, this mat, it comes in 2 different colors. A lot of my friends on Discord have different blue ones. I have this gray one because I thought it would show up on camera better, but honestly, the blue one, it's very overpowering, but it may actually be the better choice here. So let's take a look at it. So again, you can do all your surgeries on here with this. You put all your tools out. This is, again, temperature resistant, so it's going to protect itself. They changed, it looks like, a couple little different things on the styles. You can see I have the style in the lower right corner, but you can pick the different ones. This is $17 with a 40% off coupon available right now on it. So that 40% off brings it down to almost nothing, which is awesome. So that's one of the pieces of kit that I would highly recommend. You're going to see me actually using that here tonight. I'm going to use it a bunch as we do different kinds of repairs. So that's the first item that we have up here. I am going to have to bring up one of our sponsors' items right away, but this is not it. This is from Jackery. This is one I've shown you on the show before. It is a really cool little splitter, and I should have brought the other one because it always gets a laugh. There's this one that has a bunch of outlets. I think it's got 10 outlets and then a bunch of USB ports. I have one that's 3 stacks high, and I have one that's 6 stacks high. And what's cool about it is that the cord, which is plugged into the wall over here, actually reels into the unit, and it does that. So it makes it all the way compact, but I need to use this to a real outlet. All of my stuff in here is powered by a very big UPS, so that if there was a power bump while I'm doing the show and nothing goes offline. But what I found out is some of the products that I'm using that are coming up will actually mess with my UPS. So I have to go right to the hard wall wiring. So that's why I have this. But I am going to show you a product. Give me 1 second here. I have to tune this camera in. I just noticed that I was doing some shooting the other night with it. So I'm going to tap my screen here. Just need to bring the brightness up a hair. There we go. Perfect. Hopefully you guys are having a great night. So this product, and I've already got a video, so we're not going to edit a video for this one, is from Zotac, and it is a socket tester. Super cool to have. This socket tester is going to allow you to test all of your standard 110, 20 volt outlets here. This is one that I am going to give away, so I'm not even going to peel the label off if we can still get a good look at it. It does have batteries built in, so when I turn it on, it's actually on right now, even though it's not plugged into anything. It does have a non-contact voltage detector. So you can see that, and maybe you can hear it. It's beeping when I get it near a live electrical source, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of neat. So that's one feature that I'd never see in those little plug-in ones. The other thing is when I plug it in, and it's going to instantly tell me that it's got voltage. Okay, so we're at 120 volts, which is nominal voltage here in the US, so that's normal. Nothing wrong with that. It's going to show me the delta here and the variance between the neutral and the so there's neutral and then line, and then it's going to have the earth ground E. So there's a little tiny bit of half a volt there, and it's saying in big bright green letters. Hopefully you guys can see that. Correct. Okay, correct wiring. Super easy to use. The other ones have like 3 lights, and if 2 lights are on, then it's good. This thing, what I love about it is you plug it in just a few seconds, you see it's correct. Now, if you have transposed the pairs, like you're doing your own circuit or outlet wiring, if you transpose those pairs, it's going to have a line and tell you which ones they are. It's also, if you don't have your right voltage, it's going to tell you that. It's going to tell you if you're missing one of the legs, which is pretty slick. So very, very good feature. Now, what's funny is if I hit this button, it's actually not going to work on my outlet, so I can show you this. See how that light turns on and off? That's a GFCI tester, ground fault circuit interrupter. So that's required by code, is it's going to do that in a garage, bathroom, and pretty much everywhere now. But this is a GFCI tester, so it's actually going to put a very small amount of well, it's not conduction. It's going to conduct a very small amount to earth ground from neutral, and it's going to find out if there is actually a GFCI working. So that's a GFCI test way better than the test button that you have on them, which may or may not work. So that's the unit right there. This one's about $19. I don't have a carousel, so it's pretty slick. So I can go ahead and hold that down, turn it back off. I think it's $18 or $19, $18.99 right now. And sometimes it goes on sale, but these guys from the Zotec company were really cool about sending this out. I've got an extra one to actually send out. So if somebody's interested in this, I'll get some drawing information for that as well. So I'll be able to send that to you. I did need to bring this out so that I can show future items here. So let me move some of these out of the way. I'm going to check the chat really cool. Oh no. So Jeremy checks in. He says, would have been useful when I was trying to figure out where my power converter was in the RV. Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of times tracking RV stuff down is very difficult. And Jeremy says, I'm interested in it. There you go. You know what's funny? These guys, can you verify the voltage with another multimeter? I could, if I have another one coming up on the show. That's a great idea, ID. I will do that. Thank you so much. I'm shocked that it's 120 on the dot. Actually, ID, it was so funny. I've been 125 forever at my house. For some reason, they keep changing the neighborhood voltage up. I think what that was is to compensate for all the houses that they were moving in here in the same feed lines. They actually put a new transformer in, and it's right at the end of my driveway. And I think that's why it's on the button. So this is great. Somebody's on Twitch, and he's going, what the heck did I wander into? Let's see here. Oh, I can't use that because you use a swear word on Twitch. Here goes. Oh, YouTube, gotcha. I'm a wander. There you go, my friend. So yeah, absolutely. What up, dog? There's another one from the YouTuber. Thank you guys for checking in tonight. Again, kind of a rare Friday stream, but I wanted to do that for you. So speaking of power, when you're going to have a bench or a work area, you're always going to need some sort of power, whether it's 5 volts, 12 volts, 1.5 volts, 3 volts, whatever you need to power up your contraption, whatever you're working on. Having a variable bench power supply is incredibly important. Let me grab the one I have. Now, like I said, literally, if you go back in my videos, these tools have always been here down in the corner. But this is the bench supply that I use. There we go. I'm going to see if I can pull the top-down view for you guys. So there you go. It is from Event Tech. And it is a very simple, I haven't even pulled the sticker off. There's a little bit of bubbles on here, but I haven't pulled the sticker off. It is a very simple benchtop power supply, but there's a couple things I really like about it. It has coarse and fine voltage control. It has a USB plug right in here in the middle. So if I just need to power something with USB real quick, I drop that in and I plug it into my circuit, and I don't have to dial in 5 and then use an adapter. So that's one advantage. It does come capable of doing 2 different things. It's got banana clips here for the different connectors. So you can use the banana plugs and go straight in, or you actually can side terminal it. It's got holes in there, you know, or you can just wrap it around. So lots of really good options for connectivity here. It does take a regular power cable, which of course, you know, it's been about 2 seconds, so I misplaced the one I had out for us. So I'll show you how it boots up here. But hopefully you guys are having a great night. Oh, that outlet tester is going to come in handy, he says, when my dad's building my new apartment. I like it. That'll work good. And ID comes back and says, it'll float around 120 based on the load in the neighborhood. Well, my neighbors are awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in, and then I'll show you what the screen looks like. Okay. So again, simple power button. Now that volt number at the top is what I had it set to last time. So now I can use the course controls here. Oh, sorry, that's the amperage side here. So you can change both the available amps. So if you're wanting to test something that's over current, or you can change the voltage level here. Wattage is a factor of amps times volts. So until we put a load on it, we're not really going to see anything there. So then you have course voltage control. But if you really need to get dialed right in here, you can go right to an exact voltage amount. So you can see here, I want to be like, let's say 12.5, right? So I can do that. I actually have a product coming up here that we're going to test with. So I'm going to get this kind of pre-dialed in. So there you go. So I can set this to whatever voltage I want all the way up to 30 volts, right? So now it's got a bunch of different resistors, 31, 30, 221, 220, whatever it takes, right? That's the old joke. So you can do that here. So that's the way that that's set up. And again, I can adjust it using a combination of those controls. I'm going to go ahead and plug something into it. Now, I'll show you a trick. I made this little cord for myself. So if I ever want to plug something that uses a cigarette lighter plug, and I actually did, put a splitter in here and a jumper so that I could actually change it, change the polarity, do whatever I needed to do. But that is one thing that you can hook up. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of this other stuff I have over here. Um, if you're looking for AC, again, this is an adapter that I'm going to come bring up here in a second. But let's go ahead over here. And I'm going to bring out our next product. So this is kind of cool. This is going to be that dual USB from a 12 volt. Now I have not even opened this up, so I'm going to have to open that up for us here. So we're going to clip that corner. Now this is pretty cool. ID's already saying, he said, hey, you should verify that with the multimeter as well. I really will. So I can open this up. And there we go. So this is a hard mount. Like if you've got a motorcycle or, boat, RV, anything, and you want to add a couple permanent USB outlets, I can't tell you how many times, you end up putting a cigarette lighter in, and then you end up putting in, a USB adapter, and then you put in, this converter. But this converter is a 12 volt to 5 volt. It'll also do 24, it looks like, automatically. But 5 volt, 3 amp max. Now, I don't know if that doesn't have any manual in there. This is going to be straight, stuff. But, I don't know if that 3 volt is, 3 amp is across the whole thing. I'm actually going to strip this real quick. Yeah, I should get a really good pair of strippers. I actually have some in the to review box, but let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in first. I'm going to turn it off when I do that here. Let's see. There it goes. So it's just winding down. Now, again, with this unit, the neat thing that you can do, I'm going to hide that there. Trust not the readout. Yes, I agree. You can side wire it here. So there's a hole in each post. And if you really want to make sure you're making a good connection, you can do that. Now, one thing about shipping with this, when mine was shipped, it actually had a damage on the box. I don't know if my Amazon guy was like super big at throwing things, but I wasn't going to wait a week for it to send me another one. So I actually opened this up and I repaired it from the inside. So it works completely. But that was one thing I noticed, is that this post in the packaging was damaged. So, okay, we can go ahead and turn this back on here. So there we go. I've got my 11 something in there. This says it will do up to, there we go. I'm going to give it like a 12.6, 12.7, 12.8 is usually pretty good for 12 volt devices for a car. So now let's go ahead and plug it in to a $1,200 cell phone and see if we can blow it up. No, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the USB here. Whoa, right on. Okay, so great point. It's a super chat as well. So, awesome. I got 5 Aussie bucks out of there. First power up, always a good idea to restrict the current to say 50. So again, there's fine and coarse current control. So there you go. So now you can see it's, over current protection there. So we could set that to whatever we want, but it's using a little bit of the current already. You know what I should do? I should set this up so you guys can see this on the new side camera. Okay, I'm trying this out here just because we're going to be doing some electronics later. So I'm plugging this in. This is the unit. And assume this is hardwired to your battery and has a fuse and something else in line. I'm not fused, but I'm going to go ahead and use my phone. We're going to plug it in. And look at that, charging right away. There's the nice wife and son. So it is charging my iPhone right off of this. Now you can actually see the current there that's being used, the voltage drop. So total current right now looks like about a third of an amp, and it's putting out not really even 5 watts. So it's very low charging rate. Now I could go ahead and increase the available amperage just to make sure that it's not getting cut off by that. So not putting a lot of load into this. Now iPhones are notorious for changing their charging speed depending on the cable and everything else that you have. So that could change over time, but pretty cool there. So that's another neat option. I can do a bunch of neat stuff with this. I don't have it set up right now, but I was just thinking LED strips would be another great use case for this. But I can actually show you another item that we have. Let's go ahead and try that one up next. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the next item up, and that is the Benchtop multimeter. So this is the one here. Again, this is from the Zotec company. This is another cool Benchtop tool. I just hit the power button on it and you can see the big, huge numbers. It's going to make a couple beep sounds. And I'm going to bring you over here to this side just so you can see how enormous the numbers are on this. Super duper easy to use, big buttons, nice big wheel dial here for the volume. Why does a multimeter need volume? Well, this thing is brilliant, man. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things real quick here. I am actually going to unravel the probes. And this is from Zotek. Again, I want to thank them for sending this out for a fair and honest review. I've actually already done a video on this, so I'm really happy with this one. If you check them out on Amazon, you'll see that. But hopefully you can hear this. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to plug these in, first. Color-coded. Okay, we are verifying the readout. So 765, 767. It's kind of floating back. It's almost right on that thousandth, right? But check this out. There's a button.
DC voltage 10.2.765 volts.
10.2. Okay, that's not quite 12, but 10.2 is the same, right?
DC voltage 10.2.765 volts.
There's definitely somebody that wrote a computer program to write that. So it is dead on the money here, it looks like, on its readout. So somebody has to check that. But the beautiful thing about this is it's going to have all of your standard DC AC voltage. We were talking about checking that Zotek connector over here. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so everybody can see. Let's test the other one. Okay, we're going to put the Zotek tester to the test over here. It's going to come in, it's saying 120. Now I've switched this over to AC voltage amount, right? See that? So it's going to do both the AC and the hertz. If I touch these together on me, it's going to hurt. I know that. So this one's coming back in at 121.1. So maybe the other one is being a little bit optimistic over here. So hopefully you guys can see that. So big unit saying 121.1, the other one over here is saying 120. So it's maybe it's a little optimistic within one or two. Another interesting thing, I can hit that button.
AC voltage 121.03 volts.
Now, see, it knows 21 and it knows 121, but how did it do 10.2? That was pretty funny. So it must be the programming there. But 60.01 hertz, again, I'm right down from the transformer. It does have time of day. It has 17 Celsius. Let me see if I can get the right button here. But you can actually change that if you're not in Canada or anywhere else real in the world. It's 62 degrees in here, so it's been getting cool over there. That's just one of many features that this benchtop multimeter has. Let's talk about some other ones. So continuity checking. So you're tracing a broken wire. It's going to have that playback capability, which is really slick. A couple other things, it's going to have diode checking, capacitance, hold, min, max, and then relatives. So it's going to do all that stuff. It does have volume here. And there's another trick to this. I don't know if I actually am able to do this, but I'm going to try. I got in trouble last time I was trying to do this. Let's see. I want to show you the app that it's got. I'm going to keep up with the chat. Sorry, you guys are just flying through the chat. You got some Aussie money. Yes, I did. I love it. Short the power supply and set the current while shorted. Hey, you know what? I never knew that. I've always just set it. Oh, man, that is a great idea. Okay, so I've been missing one of these features forever. It's passive current control, not active. Okay, yep, all of our other ones are analog that I've used, so that's kind of cool. Very cool. Hey, Ben Robinette on the Facebook side checking in. Hey, Ben, you were asking me about a soldering iron many moons ago. I bought an iron to test out, and I'm finally going to show it out tonight, so that's pretty cool. Ben also says, hey, better than my old Fluke. You know what? I've got a bunch of Flukes. I love them to death, but man, this thing's got some cool features. Okay, I'm just double checking that I'm on the right output, and it doesn't look like I'll be able to show you that. This thing is also a Bluetooth speaker. So if your phone volume is not great, or you just want to have a Bluetooth speaker that you can plug into, you can go ahead and do that. Now, the other thing that you'll notice about this one, check it out. I'm not plugged into anything. This is running completely off its built-in battery. You'll get several hours out of the built-in battery. But again, we want to do something cool like Inception. It comes with a mini USB. How long has it been since you've seen mini USB? So we could plug this mini USB into this mini USB power connector here, or heck, one of the other ones that we just did. Go over here and plug it into the back. And now it's charging. So you can see right there in the corner, that's the little charge indicator. So this is going to work, like I said, 4 to 5 hours just on battery alone. Where I could see using this and it would be brilliant is if you're diagnosing a car, like you're working under a hood, somewhere. It's really hard to be craning your neck over, looking at numbers, trying to see what you're seeing there. But with that talking probe capability,
DC voltage negative
whoa,
0.0316
it
volt.
disconnected from Bluetooth there for a second, so it was freaking out. So yeah, with that talking voltage capability, I could see that working really well. Let me go through here one more time. There was one other thing I wanted to find for this one. Okay, yeah, it was my other show phone, which is down here because I want to show you the really slick feature on this one. So it has an app that goes with this. Number 4 here. So there is a update for my phone. Let me get the phone update later. So there is the unit right there. It's connected via Bluetooth. Let's go to Bluetooth DMM. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that screen real well, but it matches what's going on here. So it's going to be within the Bluetooth range of, this device. So you got to go over to the right mode. So I'm going to go to DC. Now, if I were monitoring a circuit for both amperage and or voltage, check that out, 12.77. So it's holding that and it's going to receive any updates over Bluetooth here. Looks like there's a little delay on that one. So that's what it's doing. And it's sending, or it's just perfectly adjusted. Look at that. It's staying, it's holding that so perfect. Now, let's go ahead and adjust this down just a hair with the fine adjustment so I can adjust it down. And sure enough, there it dropped out and I got the whole connector off. But you can see what I mean. Very cool capabilities. You can also change the mode that you want in here depending on the device they have. So I think they actually have multiple devices. So you can do that and control your benchtop multimeter. I don't know about you, but I have never had a multimeter that could do that. So it's not only a Bluetooth speaker, it actually has an app for it. Price on this one, it's not the cheapest thing in the world. It's $94.99, which if you look at what you're going to spend on some other multimeters, they're not cheap in general to get a quality one. I've had no problems with this one. I really do enjoy the fact that it's got that really strong screen that you can see in daylight. Has all the other features. It is a clock also. So if you let it sit here and time out for a while, it'll actually update the clock and it'll just go into clock mode. And then eventually it will actually die. So there's some power button on the back here. So you can hit that and just turn it off. So that is from the Zotac company. Again, I want to thank them for sending this out. I've already done a video on it. If you want to know more about it, you can go to my Amazon page and you'll see that it's there. And if you go to their Amazon page for it, you're going to see it as well. So this is the last device that we checked out. This is that dual USB, very good feature for that. So you can see, I'm going to use this, like I said, in my boat. I've got a Fire TV that I want to power from the boat, and I don't want to go through the multiple connections. The other thing that I wanted to do was use one of our next products to play with this a little bit more. So I'm going to turn that off, I'm going to unplug some of these, and we're going to go into the next product here. Hopefully you guys are having fun. I love it. Too hard to figure out 12. So we'll just do 10 and units. I love it. There you go. The real fires, which is correct. There you go. Man, lots of chat to catch up on here. It's looking great. High-end power supplies HP. You can dial the control down to 0.0001 amp and then actively restrict current to that level. Cheap ones use passive circuit. Very cool. Good to know. It might not be isolated when charging. I check this message now. ID is my ombudsman here. He's actually taking it very good that I've messed up so much in this show. I said he's going to give me a hard time later. Randy checks in. My Flux doesn't work very well. Display LCD fades out. Top half only shows number. Yeah. You know what? If we take that Flux apart using an eraser, they've got this weird LCD contact strip. I've repaired a couple of them that way. Might bring your numbers back on your Flux. And those dials in the front are just part of the circuit. Unless you're literally adjusting the values using the knobs, it'll only clamp the current when it passes the value. Okay, very good to know. Sorry, I should have put it up here. Very cool. Thank you, Lemming, for checking in on that and telling us how to use that. So now I know how to use that properly. There we go. He said be interested in a teardown of the unit to see what the innards are. Well, I got kind of torn down on it because, like I said, when it was shipped, it had a broken stud. So I was able to fix that myself. Just by taking it apart and doing that. But, yes, it's definitely some sort of pots in here as part of their circuit for sure. I'll do a teardown of the multimeter if you want, Nick. Let's see if you can win this thing. I got to talk to Jeff and figure out how we're going to do that, but I want to give it away. So, very cool. And then Lemming, the last thing he says is zebra strips. I have no idea what a zebra strip is, but we'll see what that is later. Okay, next item up here is actually where we're going to get to start repairing something. We're going to get to make something with a soldering iron. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, put it out of the way for a little bit, and then we're going to do a quick unbox. This one I do have to record for Amazon, so you guys are going to help me make some cool content here real quick. But it is also my first time opening this one completely. I've gone through and I check all of these things, make sure everything's there. We're going to find out how good this thing is. If I was really smart, I would have had my... oh, I might have to go grab that now. I could put the background music on and let you guys listen to that, but I could actually grab my temperature gun and we could actually verify the temperature that this thing says that the end of the probe gets to. So let me grab this real quick. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, zebra strips. Sorry. Zebra strips. Lemming is saying about those LCD connectors. Very good. I love it. I love it. Okay, so next up we have this soldering iron. This is a under $12 soldering iron kit. Now it is going to come with solder, and I think it might even have lead in the solder, which will be awesome because again, when they took lead away from solder, they made everybody's life a little harder. It is a maximum of 60 watts. Now, depending on the kind of soldering you're doing, unless you're doing like, very large solder jobs, 60 watts is usually plenty, and you want something that's adjustable to bring that down as much as you can because you don't want to overheat a board or overheat parts. That's a real easy recipe for disaster. So 60 watts on this one. It does have adjustable control, and it is actually going to come with several unique parts that are great for it. So let's open it up here. We'll do our quick unbox. I'll show you everything you get. So you get solder wire, 63, 37, 20%. It is, looks like got a core on it. I don't know. So usually the core on these, that looks like it's almost solid. So it doesn't say rosin core, flux core, anything like that. So that looks like that's the stuff there. Made in PRC. We're going to go in here. This is the iron itself. So again, there is that dial in. And you know what I like about this? It's not wattage. It's actually temperature controlled, it says. We're going to find out if that actually does work. That's a really good test. As you're doing this, couple things to remember. And again, we'll look at the chat for advice. I know I've asked a couple of these guys things. Don't grab the sharpest, skinniest tip you can find in here and then crank this thing all the way up and start trying to solder, thinking you're going to use this little fine tip. One, you're trying to get heat into the solder to help it melt. If you use a super tiny fine tip, now this is coming with essentially a medium tip here. I'll show you what those look like. Just the tip, just for a little bit. So there it is. And you can see there's 5 other tips. There's some wedge tips, some flat tips, some larger tips. Those can be really good if you're trying to desolder something too. So that can help you get a lot of heat into a certain area. But if you're going to be doing any sort of fine soldering with the fine tip, get really good at it before you switch over to that. That's one piece of advice. And then the other thing here is the temperature. Use a decent amount of temperature, but don't use a ton. It looks like this one goes from 200 to 450, it says on the temperature. Simple on off. Now, if you set it down, it looks like it's going to keep itself off the desk, but it does actually include, and I wish this was a little bit heavier, just a desktop mount. So you tilt this up and it should lock into place, but of course, that one does not. So I can move it, it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and move that. Now I sprung it a little bit to get it in there. And now, of course, it doesn't want to spring back. There we go. So now you can use this on that little stand. So by putting it on this little stand, you're actually going to protect yourself from having this burn your desk or any area if you're not using a mat. Now it does come with this little itty bitty tiny that's actually a sponge, but it's so flat it's not going to do anything. And then you can go ahead and put the sponge, it looks like, down in that area. I'll do that here in just a second. So they'd want you to use it this way essentially. Now it did come with this solder paste here, but it is hard as a rock. We will see if it can be heated up. I was looking for some tips pre-show on that. So not used this hard solder before. Let's check the manual real quick. Okay, so it's telling you basic soldering technique. Open the stand and pour water. Adjust the temperature to preheat. It looks like it's going to be in the Celsius range, 200 to 450. That's 392 to 842. And again, you don't need a ton of power. It is saying it has 50-degree increment adjustments, and it's got welding, clean the soldering tip, and turn off power. So pretty basic. You can't get much more basic than that. And again, $12. So, and then they've got some warranty information on this. So we're going to fire this thing up and see how it does. Let me know if you guys want me to get the tool out. I think I know exactly where it is, so I could actually verify this. What I want to do is I actually want to solder something together with you guys today. So we're going to use this basic one. And I didn't think to bring my kilowatt, and we could actually see how much power this was using. So again, we can adjust it to whatever we want. Let's say 300 even to start. Turning it on, let's go ahead here and get you back over on the top down. So I adjusted it to 300, and then I turn it on and off. Now it's little tiny light there, but I've got a really bright showroom here. So that's going to start that heating up. Now that could take 30 seconds, a minute or more to get hot. That's completely normal. We're taking a look. Still tuned in. Can't wait to see the soldering iron. Here you go, Ben. We're ready. No, trust but verify. Here we go. Hako style soldering iron tips. There you go. Oh, got to learn how to spell it first, John. Jonathan Talks Hardware, another great YouTuber, by the way. Check him out. He's definitely a techie like ourselves. Got to learn how to solder. Soldering is really a very useful tip. As Lemming says, soldering is easy. Soldering well is hard. That's an absolute understatement there. It takes lots of practice, good joints every single time. But man, the payoff on it is huge. Keep a damp sponge nearby. 25 watts should be enough for most components. So it's kind of interesting. So this is a 60-watt iron, but then it is temperature controlled, John. So I love the idea there. If this actually does keep the temperature where you want it, I'm not as worried about the wattage. I've got, like 150 or 200 watt iron for big jobs outdoor when it's wet and whatever. But this will be interesting. And I'm seeing the light stays on. So we don't know if it's actually going to hit that temperature. So the other thing, I'm going to go ahead and dip, like John says, I'm going to dip that sponge in and boom, look at that. That thing totally swole up. We're going to put that in here. Now, a sponge is a great thing to have. You can use paper towels. You can use whatever. They even have kind of these steel bristle balls that you can get that help clean the tip. Again, once you get solder on here, it's only going to last so long, and then it's going to basically, get wasted. It's not going to adhere properly. The flux is all gone, so it's good to clean that tip. This is a very small sponge. Now I'm going to show you my other station. It's about 10 times bigger, but for small jobs, if this is something that you need to throw in your bag because you're going over to a friend's, you're going to help them repair something, this all fits in this little tiny box here. So these are the different tips. Now I did exactly what I told you not to. I use the medium tip, I guess, technically. Let me show you on the side view here real quick. These are the different tips I was talking about. So if you start out with this super sharp tip, thinking you're doing a great job and you're just going to, do that, you're just going to lift traces off any boards that you're working on. So good example. I'm going to pull the board out that we're going to use later. This is a printed circuit board that we're going to work on later. And you can see the size of those little traces, and there's a surface mount for an IC. So yeah, you might use this little tiny tip if you're surface mounting on the IC. You may actually not even need to, depending. And then these are some through holes, but I would start out with that medium tip like it is and go from there. So we're going to play with that other tool a little bit later. Just taking a look real good. As he said, don't overheat the board. That's when you start removing pads and traces. Exactly. You're way ahead of me there. Bigger tip if using solder wick. Man, these are some great recommendations here. So let me talk about solder wick real quick, just because you brought it up. So that would be another accessory. So a solder wick is just like a piece of wire, just like this. Everybody's like, oh, I hope he touches that and burns himself, I'm sure. But you can use this to remove solder so that it looks, again, just like a braided tail there. You can use this to remove solder from a circuit board if you need to get it out of there. They also have a thing called a solder sucker. You can push that down, hit this button, and usually if it's built poorly enough, it'll eject out the back and then you have to get another one. So yeah, these are always way underbuilt, but the solder sucker is another great tool to have. We're going to do some just real basic soldering here. You can even do some no-handed soldering. Now that's kind of a cool idea here because you're going to always end up needing more hands than you have here. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do some extending of some wires. Okay. So there's a couple wires here that we have. Now, if this is rosin core or flux core, then I'm going to be in good shape. To me, it doesn't look like that. So there's the little tiny tip of it. It's hard to tell really good. And then we're going to go over here. Now, this stuff is hard as a rock, but I want to see if this is actually going to, yeah, it is going to melt when you use it. So that's good. So now that's putting a little tiny bit of flux on there. So I'm just getting this wire ready to receive the solder. So if sometimes you have, let's get that out of here. There we go. Just like in plumbing, you put a little bit of flux on the copper before you add the solder there to sweat pipes together. If you can do that, if you have solder that is actually like, let me grab some that's going to be some flux core stuff or rosin core. So if you've got some of this stuff, which will actually have it in the center, you can tin your wires just like this. So when I say tinning wires, what I'm trying to do is put a little tiny coating of solder right there. Now those fumes are not great for you. So you don't generally want to breathe those in, but I'm just trying to get it to where the wire looks silver. And that's going to be a lot better when you're trying to put some stuff together. Now, as I said about the solder getting old, essentially, so if it overheats on this tip here, just like that. So if that's going to get overheated on that tip, it's not going to be any good. And you're going to take your wire and you're going to start touching it to it and it's not going to stick. So to help yourself a little bit, we can use that sponge to clean it off. And that solder will come off in a little ball like that, or it'll splash off. I just used it to splash there. And then man, that solder, that sponge is already gone. So you want to start out with a clean tip on the iron there. Jeremy says, get the temp gun. You know what? I think we should. Here we go. I'm going to have to put some background music here for us. Let me see if I can add some cool background music. And you let me know if it's horrible. I'm going to select chill. And can I do that? Let me know if that background music is too much. And I will do that. Here we go. I'm going to grab the temperature probe and I'm going to be right back. We'll stay with you here so you can hear me, hopefully. Okay, I'm back. And hopefully the editors will clean that part out of my final video here. So far it heated up pretty fast. Let's see what it's at. Okay, so there's the top down. We'll see if this is a better view for you guys. Now I'm using, this is actually just a regular infrared thermometer. I'm going to be in Celsius mode because I have it dialed in at 300. And it's not going to show me what I want, even with this one. That'll be an interesting one. So it's saying that it's at 100 Celsius, which we know isn't true. So we'll have to play with that. Let's see if I can go off to the side rig here. See if I'm doing this right. It is a reflective surface, and I'm wondering if that's throwing this off. So it does have a couple different options here. So I can actually have it do the laser light. You know, I may have to get really close to it because this thing, again, is just using that for alignment, but on something that's very close like that. Yeah, so it's already 145. I don't think that the laser light and it are in cahoots. Let's see. So it's saying it's down to 100. So yeah, not fine enough on that tip. You know, it's interesting too, because I was trying for the side of it. You would think that that'll get enough to burn you. Let's put it that way. So it's very easy to get hot enough to burn, but it doesn't look like it's going to be hot enough in this case. So overall, I would say this thing's a win. Now, what I was going to say about earlier about being able to do your soldering here, if you can leave it on here, I need to actually get this wire up. Get a little bit of flux on it. So if you can just leave it on here, for example, and then you can use your solder. I'm going to use the solder that they include, and you can heat up the wire. Now you can learn how to do this if you want to pre-tin the iron. Now this is taking its time to get in there, and then you can just, tap it on there. There we go. So that tin job was a lot better here. So you can see they're both tinned now. Now what I was going to do is I was actually going to extend the leads from our last product here, because I thought they were pretty short. So again, let's say these are short. Let's say I need to, solder this together. Maybe I'm putting it together, for my boat, and this is the leads that I have from some other connection. So I will do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to tin these. Now, you'll notice actually a lot of times your wires will come pre-tinned. So this wire has a little tiny bit of tinning of what's sticking out, and then it's copper. But if they're pre-tinned like that, you can actually use this soldering iron. So I'm going to use this solder that this flux that they gave us here. There we go. There we go. And then I'm not happy with the cheap solder that they're giving you. I would actually recommend going out and picking yourself up some rosin core, flux core solder. There we go. You can add that. Now, is it totally getting smoky in here? That'll be another good test here. Haven't burned myself yet, but there we go. So now I've tinned both sides. Now what I can do, if I want to make this super easy on myself by just using, again, that stand, I can add a little bit of new fresh solder. I'm going to look for the color, the one that has a stripe on it. I can bring these two together and just pull them apart. Oh, I just spoke too soon. Sorry. So bring these together. Yeah. Pull them apart. Give it just a few seconds for it to freeze. There we go. Now we've got a solder joint. Now I'm going to show you a trick a little bit later with my other one on how we can make that even better. So now I've got one. Yes, I did just dip that into the iron. It didn't melt, thank goodness. Now again, this is where you're going to want to use that sponge. We're going to clean the sponge up a little bit. There we go. So there's a little ball of wasted solder there, essentially. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that same trick where I'm going to add a little bit of solder to the iron. Now, normally I like to heat the part up, but let's see if I can do this without wasting too much time. That little tiny bit of solder is actually going to help make the rest conductive there. It's definitely got the heat. Okay, so that's not my best solder joint there. And honestly, if I was going to come back through here, I could do that. There are other tricks and tools to help you have an additional 72 hands. This is a very common one you may have seen. It's going to be in all those sci-fi movies. So it's going to have a bunch of hands, may even have a cool light like this one does, and it can actually hold your project. So if I was using it, I would use it this way, but it can actually hold your project for you and help you focus on really small things. So in this case, I'm going to turn this around here just so you guys can see it, and I'll turn the light off. If I was going to solder two wires together, I could have this either holding a circuit board, or I could just have it holding one of the wires in place, right? So I can come in here with this and I can unsolder it. Let's do that real quick. I'm going to use my better solder here. So I'm going to add a tip solder, come in, get that hot and get it away. There we go. Now, always going to use new solder whenever I can. I can remove the solder off of this, kind of like a vacuum. There we go. A little solder ball came off. And then I could add some fresh solder. And I even just like to set this up like this. So have a little piece of solder here handy for me. Where's that other end? There we go. So I can take this, I can add a little bit of solder onto the tip of the iron. And then I can come over here and use that extra hand. There we go. That's a much better joint. Sorry, that wasn't close enough for you guys. There, it just fused, but that made a much better solder joint that time. So that's what we're hoping for. But again, $12, you don't get much these days, but $12 is pretty good. Stripe is negative or neutral. Whoopsie. Need more water on that sponge. Man, I'm getting everybody's telling me what to do tonight. You're absolutely right. It does need more water, and I'm trying not to grab this. If you have a soldering iron that's falling, don't instinctively grabbed for it. Definitely let it go. It does need to have more water. Usually you should see a hiss sound when it gets on this because it's cleaning it. But yeah, I didn't have too much on there, so I'll put that in. So I don't know. Let me know in the chat what you think. My goodness, for again, $12, you're getting a soldering iron with temperature control, an on-off switch, a little stand. I would pass on the solder that it's going to give you. You're going to have a little brick here of your flux. Again, they do that because this is not cord solder, and you can use that. But again, for the price, I think this is a passable beginner soldering iron. I like the fact that it has all of these extra tips. I think that's going to be really useful when we get into some other stuff. But I am actually going to show you another couple options tonight. We got some neat products, so I'm going to show you some other ones. But here's some of the other tips that we didn't use. There's a chisel point there. This one right here has a lot flatter, larger surface area. That would be good for desoldering things as well. Oh, there's the one right there I was looking for. Yeah, that one specifically looks pretty good. Awesome. Shows up Radio Shack, Brandon. No, this is OG solder, my friend. That is from like 1990 college or high school. Yeah, this is probably some of my old high school solder. Okay. Well, we got to move on. There's a couple other things. We talked about soldering irons here. I have another iron, and this one is actually a soldering station. I am going to put this out of the way and really not try to burn myself today because I don't want to have to explain that. I already cut my thumb on something I was going to show here later, but I cut my thumb earlier in the week. I don't want to do that. Here we go. Oh no, not going to make him do NASA space compliant. If you want a dry read, oh my gosh, the stuff that you have to go to for very good solder, actually very good soldering, specifically the wire splicing, I think, right? So ID probably knows how to do their special splices when you solder. Craziness. So let me get this out of the way because I do need to record this next one because it is going to go up on Amazon and I want to hide the products that I've already used. And I said I was going to be sitting, but I'm all running around right now. So I kind of lied to myself even. So let me move these out of the way here. Got to put them back in their box. Not a bad little kit, as I said. So Ben Robinette, he's on Facebook watching. He was asking me a long time ago, what could he get for, an occasional use soldering iron? I'd say that's a pass, man. It works. It was able to join wires here. They haven't fallen apart on the desk while they're on their own. So that's a good sign. I'm going to bring out the Big Daddy next, though. This is one that, if you can't afford the name brand, might be something you should look at. I used it this morning. There we go. Lemming says nothing wrong with old solder unless it's like really oxidized or something. But yeah, actually, if you can find the lead solder, that's even better solder. Most of the new Safe and Sane stuff is safe and not very good. So let me go grab the next product up and we're going to go ahead and use that. Like I said, I use these things, so they're here. If you go back in my YouTube videos, you're probably going to see about 2 years ago when I picked this one up. So I got to get the model number right. Let me pull this down to the side here. So we're going to look at it on the overhead. So we're going to pull that overhead back too. There we go. So this is the TXN LEI 898D. Now it's in the carousel right now. They have it as the 898D solder station. What's kind of neat about it is it's not only going to be a regular soldering station like this, it's going to have a soldering iron. Again, very, very strong. I don't know the exact wattage of this, but it is definitely going to heat up very quickly. It's going to be removable. It has its own connector, so you can, again, eventually replace these if you ever needed to. It's going to have all the standard tips. This one is what I told you not to do. It is the very sharp tip. So that might explain why my soldering's so bad with this one. So it does come with quite a few accessories. I'm going to go ahead and pull those out real quick. And it comes with a completely dry sponge, which I'm going to go ahead and get wet here. So we'll do that. I love this. So now we're going to get the inside baseball because we're not on Amazon right now. I can totally share these things. So it's a knockoff of a UA, which is a knockoff of Heiko. Yeah. If you have the money, there are much better ones out there. I didn't have the money when I got this one, and I needed something with a heat gun, which is kind of a cool differentiator on this one. Let me see if I can come over to the side camera again. Let me know if you like the side camera view. I'm just going to do it because I want to do some soldering later and I want to be able to show you guys what I'm doing. So this is the unit itself right now. It does plug into a regular wall outlet. It has 3 different kinds of controls though, which we should talk about. So it's going to have a control for the heat gun side. It's going to have a control digital again for the station side. It's going to have calibration capability, so you can recalibrate those if you have a heat gun that works, unlike mine. Or at a meter it works, and then it's going to plug into a standard outlet for PCs, and then it's going to have this master power on off. Now I wouldn't leave this thing on unattended. You'll see that it's almost never plugged in when I have it going, but I'm going to go ahead and plug it in now. Now all of a sudden, obviously it lights up right away. You can set your solder temperature. Now when you set your soldering temperature, it's not actually going to immediately go to that temperature because the switch is off right here. You see this side, same thing. This is the SMD rework. So surface mount rework station. That's also a really good heat gun. I'm just going to point that out. Now I actually picked up, and I haven't even used these yet. These will go in a separate video on YouTube. You'll see them later, but I picked up a ton of these little tiny heat shrink tubes because I'm doing a lot of stuff on my boat coming up and I'm going to need a gazillion of them. So I thought, why not do that? So cool thing about these, 3-to-1 shrink ratio, and you can see they're pretty big, about 3 inches a piece here. Oh, don't clip that for me on YouTube. That would be really bad. So here we go. The neat thing about these is, remember that thing we just soldered? Now, if I was smart, what I would have done is I would have put a piece of heat shrink tube over the wire before I did that. Now, if I just went like this and you'll see, I slide this down here, I'm just going to be touching those together. So if I put the heat shrink on now, I'm not good, but that's something you can think about. Let's actually fix that while we're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this ready for us. So you can see here, I've got my soldering iron. I can set the temperature of my soldering iron to whatever I want. It's saying it's 000 right now is the temperature, which is true. So I can set it to 350 and I can turn it on and it'll start heating. Let me show you real quick a couple of the things that this comes with, since we got the top down working again. Get this out of the way. So we'll do kind of a pseudo unprepared unboxing on here. It comes with, ta-da, almost everything in this kit. I've actually picked up this pencil box to carry all of my accessories for soldering, tweezers and other tools. I will show you the tools that it came with right here. Now, I believe it actually came, we'll have to see which solder. So this does look like solder. It's not. These are very, very fine wires. This is for board level repairs. You can see how thin that wire is. It's like a hair. And you can use that to do a circuit repair if there's a bad trace or something in a circuit. I'm going to go ahead and pull all these out. There's the instructions in Chinese. Do they have them in English on the other side? They do. So there's the user manual. It's going to have all the information. It's a 700 watt unit. It looks like it's 100 to 450 degree temperature range. So that's huge range of temperature there. It's going to have these little hand tools that come with it, along with a set of tweezers. It's going to come with an additional element, a heat element here for the blower, just in case. Now, that kind of worried me when I saw that. I was like, okay, are they really worried about the heat element going bad? I don't know. But, that's one of the things that they included on it as well. And then, the solder station over here, it's going to have the sponge and everything else. Looks like that's the construction mechanism here. If you ever did have to replace the heater, I've never had to myself, which is pretty cool. Heat shrink on a boat, you're going to need a bigger boat. That's what American checks in with. Thank you. Yes, I'm doing a lot of small wiring. Let's put it that way. I got LEDs. I want to run LEDs underneath the bilge in the boat so I can turn them on at night if I have to do any repairs. So I'm going to go ahead and get you on the side camera here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this unit on. So I've turned that soldering side on, and you're going to see right away the temperature climbing. So that is the tip temperature of the tip of the soldering iron. Just the tip, just for a bit. Now, one thing to point out too is to make sure that this joint right here is tight when you're either assembling it or you're using it, because that can loosen up a little bit, and that's how you change the tips on these. And if you don't, you'll actually be losing some connection there. So that's an important thing to do real quick when you're getting this ready to use. just make sure that that's it. And normally I would use a much larger tip on the soldering iron, but today, again, we're doing just a simple repair. We're not going to need that. So in this case, I can test how hot it is. It says it's at 350 and I see a little bit of smoke. So that's telling me that it's hot. I can touch this. And like I said before, this will probably go through it, but you see how it's not quite there. Let's do a couple things. One thing that can really help is add a little tiny bit of fresh solder onto your iron. It's also good to test if this thing's hot enough. Okay, so add a tiny little bit of fresh solder. That's going to act to conduct the heat better into this larger item. Ooh, there we go. No, see, I can feel the wires getting warmer. Not quite there yet. So I'm going to increase the temperature on this one. Just trying to release these. Go ahead and clean that tip. That tip does not look incredibly good. This is the unit that I use, though. Like I said, actually having this small of a tip on here, probably not super helpful, honestly. Especially if we're trying to solder and undo something like this. So it is steaming, so I can see I'm in there. There we go. Now it's loosened up. I got one off. We'll loosen it up and get the other one off. And this is where, you know, experimenting with the different kinds of tips can definitely be helpful. ID, you saw it. I didn't say anything about that. Okay, we're doing a April 20th day soldering event. Okay, so here we go. So I've got those back off now. Let's go ahead and take some of this. So if I soldered this right, I could take some of my heat shrink tubing, right? And I could just slip it over the solder joint, which would be kind of nice. Let me see if I get the right size. I don't want it to be too small that it doesn't slip over the solder joint. But what you can do here is I can go ahead and take this, for example, and I can clip it. And then you can slide this over the unit. Now, what you may have to do is find the long side here. So I've always used stripe as positive. Randy's telling me stripe is negative. Somebody fact check him on that. I want to make sure that I'm doing right here. So one of the drawbacks of this one, again, because it's got the soldering iron over here, is I'm going to have to use multiple hands. And you know what? I actually have not been following my own instructions. I just realized this. I'm not using my mat, because that's another thing, is if you are going to set your iron down for whatever reason, if you have your mat surface out, it's not a big deal. You can just totally set that down. If you have small parts, again, you can use them over here. I'm going to undo this and bring this cable out of the way. So there we go. So now I have a nice clean work surface to work on. I'm going to need a little bit of solder. I've got my unit here. I've slid down that heat shrink tubing down to the bottom of this side, and I'm going to slide down the heat shrink. Now, this is not necessarily going to be waterproof. I do have waterproof connectors that I use, and I'd love to show you guys on the show sometime. But there we go. So that's how we're going to solder these two together. Let me double check. I asked for a favor. Let's see. Could find a dozen of each, somebody says. Okay. Again, this can be kind of difficult to solder. You know, again, you need at least 3 hands to do this job. So I'm going to use this Flux core wire. So it's 2% flux. So I'm going to use this wire. And now it's actually, yeah, so I think that temperature measurement was not right on it. So I'm going to go ahead and heat this up. Definitely feels warmer now. And you can add a bunch more. This is the nice thing about soldering this way. Well, one, I got air blowing right on me, which is not great for my solder joint. But that's the nice thing about having this, is if I drop anything hot like those on here, it's not going to hurt anybody. So there we go. This is where the little tiny tip is not carrying a lot of solder. That's a problem here. So I don't want to get burned here, but I need to get this into a nice position so that they line up right next to each other, so I can heat them both together and have them melt into each other. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Just hold it. Oh, I moved myself back. There we go. I'll leave that there for a second. There we go. And essentially the same thing on the other side. This one's got a huge dollop of solder on it already. I'm gonna have to add a little tiny bit again for conduction. I should have changed the tip out on this one, so I have that really tiny fine tip. And I'm gonna go ahead and do this there. Actually, you know what? I need to clean that off because it is actually getting in the way there. Okay. So again, nice thing about having a silicone mat down, you can drop extra solder off on it and you don't worry about it at all. Okay. That one's good. So now we have our solder joint. Now I'm not going to be showing you guys how to do surface mount electronic soldering or whatever. If you're into that now, that's probably more advanced. But what I wanted to show you what we can do here, which is pretty cool, is we put those heat shrinks on. Well, I don't have to get a lighter out or anything else. I can just slide the heat shrink connectors over here. So I just slid them over like that, right? And I actually now, because I have this specific unit, I have a heat gun that I can use to shrink this tubing. So I'm going to turn off the soldering iron side. I'm going to remove this. Now it does have a safety in here. So if I turn this on and it's in the cradle and I can say I want it to be 350 or whatever, let's do 350. What's going to be interesting about it is it won't turn on until it's out. So now it's turned on. Now it's blowing hot right now. And you can see, I don't want to burn my camera, but you see that red in there, that glow? That's actually doing the heat out here. So this is a great little universal heat gun. Like I said, this would be great in a garage, little workshop area. Probably not going to heat your workshop, T-Dolts, but just saying. So now what's cool about this, and I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see when this thing actually starts working, is I can actually use it now to shrink this tubing. That side's shrinking. Then I can go to this one and you can see I can shrink this tubing. Actually, you know what? I should do it this way so you guys can see it. I don't know if it's going to focus. It's going to be like, I'm melting. Okay, so it's shrinking, and I would get the right temperature and not be fighting my air conditioner right now, which is what I'm doing because this is blowing into that. And there we go. So now I can use it as a heat shrink device here. If I'm not reflowing a circuit on there. Another cool thing, so the one drawback is it's blowing right now. It's at 350. If I set it down here, it's going to continue to blow at a very hot temperature. Now, what's neat about this one is it's already turned it off, essentially. So it is blowing hot air, and this is why that silicone mat helps a lot. But it's already off. It's actually cooling down right now, but I need to have something underneath it because you don't want that hot temperature going in there. But what I am going to do, because again, we're doing kind of a cool covered thing, I'm actually going to cover the heat shrink on them together now with a larger piece of heat shrink. There we go. So that little tiny bit there that's heat shrinked, they're still apart. You could electrical tape them. I find this is a really cool way to do it. Let's see if there's enough room. There's not quite enough room in that. So let's go up to the size larger. That's why I love having this little kit of heat shrink. And they're just the right size to clip them and make two sides, or do this and cover the whole thing. Okay, so there we go. So that's the heat shrink tubing that we're going to shrink again. Now, as soon as I pull this out of here, you'll see it turns right back on. So it's back on. It's in business. It's glowing. The air is flowing on it. It says it's at 350. Let's try to do this again. There it goes. So it's not necessarily meant to be just a heat gun for heat shrink like this. But man, talk about another great use of having a multi-use tool there. So that's this side of it. I'm just going to turn it around, make sure I've heat shrunk both sides. There we go. And again, putting it back over in here. And now this little solder station not only has allowed me to solder some stuff, which is great, and it's cooling off right here. Oh, put the heat gun in the holder the other way. Oh, you know what? Now I'm just cooking this side of my set. No, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. So yeah, perfect. So you could do that, but it's going to burn your desk. I never knew that one. Again, I got to have Lemming over more often. So there we go. Not bad. It's going to hold. It's going to be semi-waterproof. There we go. And we got 2 Aussie bucks. Man, I'm going to empty his account tonight. I love this. I can't usually do super chats when we're on YouTube or on, Amazon, but I like it. There we go. Use the gripper pliers. I'm telling you, yeah, everybody's a critic these days. Look at that. Ah, slow and steady, Pinky says. That's like his channel. Oh, sorry. I'm kidding. He just got a whole big upgrade done. I doubt that 350C is really hot. I guess you guys are just being mean now. So yeah, if you're not up against something that can get hot, putting it in the other way is a great idea. Looks like it fits either direction. So that's another solder station option there. $63 right now. This one isn't on sale. It's in Amazon. All the links, if you guys are gonna, pick any of these up and you're interested in any of them, are at the bottom of the URL there. They're just scrolling along now. If you visit my Amazon page, you'll see them there. Unfortunately, and again, thanks again for the Aussie bucks there. There we go. This is all Google Play credit. I love it. I'm down with that. You can do that. I don't mean. What is in that cup? What do you think's in the cup, Tina? Let's see. Oh, don't look at the foamy side. We're on Amazon, so yes, that says Top Dad. That's the cup. I should be advertising cups, but yeah. So it's a Friday night. We're allowed to, just not on Amazon. Okay, so we've gone through a few products here. There is another product if we are going to be doing any sort of surface mount work. You're not going to want to deal with the flux like I've been dealing with the solid flux, or only having flux that isn't part of your solder like this one is. So this is a solder with some flux in it. And you can get different diameters of solder. Sometimes like for plumbing, you're going to use enormous solder. For very small devices, things that you're going to be soldering, you might go way down on the solder size as well. And there's going to be different formulations of lead, tin, so on. But having this no clean flux paste is going to be awesome. I have not used the syringe types before. Usually I'm just picking it up and daubing it on if I'm doing that. So I saw this. It was a good deal. You are not going to get a ton. So it's going to be 9.8 grams or 10 milliliters on this one. So it's not a ton of solder, but of flux, but it's enough to be dangerous. Oh, and I noticed I still got my background music on. Let me know if that's annoying and I'll turn the background music off or not. Oh gosh, you guys, this is definitely a chill stream. Where can I get the Net Guy logo? Asking for Yocto. He needs one above his garage. If I told you how much work that sign actually was to get, it is kind of interesting. So let me move some of these things out of the way, so I can do a proper unboxing, and then we're going to get into making this little FM radio here in just a sec. I've got just a couple other things that we're going to look at, and then we're going to do that. I'm taking these little solder balls away because I want to clean this little area up. But these are all of the accessories, like I said, that you get with that solder station. So you're going to get different things, to help you if you're cleaning up a job, or you're rebuilding the tool. Like I said, scary that they include an extra heat element, but awesome that they include an extra heat element in case you need it. Let me move this out here. It does include a solder sucker. We didn't talk about that yet, but you can use this if you're desoldering. You can use it kind of like a solder wick. So if you need to heat something up, you can do that. That kind of picked it up. And it uses suction to suck little tiny pieces of solder out. Now, sometimes it'll drop back out, or you have to take it apart if it's gone past that. But there you go. So that is the solder station. Now, there are different tips, cones, it looks like, for the reflow rework station side. So if you want something that puts out a very small tip, I've only used it really for doing heat shrink. So heat shrink, other things, if I need to heat up a part, I can do that. So it's kind of nice to have that as well. I'm going to put these back over here, and we're going to take a look at this flux paste. So the trick on this stuff, let's open it up real quick, is that it's going to come with that syringe. It's going to come with the back, and then it's going to come with almost a needle tip. Chisel tip. Use a chisel tip. Yeah, we're getting there. So there we go. So there is the end of this. I can go ahead and unscrew it. I can screw this side in, and then it should come out. So there we go. So you can see, almost like a doctor here or somebody cooking a turkey. You need to baste it. Let's see if I can get this to come off properly. Of course, it's going to be safe and sane. There we go. And then your plunger is going to fit through this back end here. And already, see if I can squeeze a little bit here. There's your flux coming out. I'm going to put this on the side camera. I know it's Friday night, but it's not that kind of channel. So there we go. So you can see that little tiny bit there. So you can use this to put a little bit of flux on your circuit board. I should have grabbed an old circuit board or an old PC. Then you can pull your heat gun out. Now, of course, this is paper, so it's going, and it's like not a good contrast, but you can see how that flux with just a little bit of heat, it melts into just a puddle. You see how that's there? So that's going to allow it to prepare the surface of your circuit board. So if you're putting down an IC, you can use this to very carefully put the flux just where you want it. I wouldn't recommend doubling the rosin core and the flux core, but then you could come back with your additional solder and then you could tin the pads that you have there and then come back. So very cool feature to have. I'm going to use that here in just a second because we're going to start talking about doing the, give me 1 second. We're going to talk about the next item up. So this is definitely something I wanted to have available when we started working on the next part of the project, which is going to be the FM radio. So that's the Flux syringe. So this is going to be your no clean stuff. So you don't really have to worry about wiping it off. It's not going to leave a bad residue there. So I'm going to pull this out of the way and then we're going to open up the next part, which I kind of teased you guys about. Now, I haven't been going to the Amazon page here. Let's go over here real quick. I'm going to bring up the Amazon page. This is, again, a great deal if you're looking for a mat. I've been using this one for a couple years now. I wish I could log in and show you, but this mat is going to be good for up to 954 degrees. So you don't have to worry about laying a hot soldering iron on it. It's going to be just fine. It's not going to hurt anything. I wouldn't recommend that because you're going to accidentally touch it, but this is going to protect your desk or any other surface. And this is just one option. They actually have a ton of different styles. So there's the blue large one. There's going to be a blue small one that comes in a 2-pack. And there's a 2-pack on the grays as well. So that's what I had listed there. Let's go back over here. Those are the different items. This was the solder station that I was looking at a little bit ago. That's the one we've been using with the heat side. So it's going to come with 12 pieces. Let me click on this because I did not do a great job of showing you. Those are the different tips that it's coming with. It's going to come with all of those extra tools. There's the unit. Very easy to read, very easy to see. It is able to be calibrated. So you can have the different handles in there. And if you need to calibrate it, that's one of the nice things about it. There's the blower and all the pieces if you actually did have to do that. Inductance in the handle means that it'll turn on or off as you put it back down in the shoe here. And as we learned, throw it in upside down in that shoe and that'll turn it off, which is pretty cool. I've never done that. It does have non-stick feet, so it's not going to go anywhere. And there is the absorbent sponge that you get, and there's the different leads on the different devices. So there you go. So that was the soldering iron that we used. That actually worked incredibly well. We're going to go back out here. The next item I'm going to show you, we've talked about all the other ones. The next item I'm going to show you is our project for today. We're going to see how well this works. I may actually continue this up because we've been on for quite a while on YouTube. I may actually continue this up on our Discord just because then I can chat with you guys. And I like chatting with you guys. This is a soldering project, essentially. It is a do-it-yourself radio. It's an FM radio that goes from 76 megahertz to 108 megahertz. It's only in steps of 0.1, so you hit the up and down channel button. Looks like it might even have volume control, but it really would be great for somebody that wants to practice soldering, especially me, which I don't do a lot of IC soldering. And when I've done ICs, they've usually had a breadboard or they've had, a socket that they go in. But this is a surface mount. It's going to have one surface mount, and that's going to be on this green board here. You can see it's labeled as U1 there. So that's one of the things that you can do. If we come over here, you can see the switching of the channel and then the adjust volume and then the trun on off here. So for $8, you get all of these components and a little battery holder. Once you get it done, it looks just like this, which looks pretty cool. Got 4 out of 5 stars. So we're going to find out if I plug this thing in together and I build it all, is it junk or not? But we'll learn that the hard way here. And it does come with all of the individual devices. I'm going to unbox this for you guys so you can see what it has. And it is not to scale in this because it looks about half the size of this girl's head, but it says in there reference only. It is not to scale, but it does look like a good family project. If you've got kids that you're trying to teach how to do some of this kind of stuff, what a great idea. Love those mats. We use them at work, Tina says. There we go. I forgot where you work now, so I don't need to share that, but they definitely do keep things clean. Use it to fix your flux capacitor. Yes, I drive an electric car. Yes. I love that. And I could do custom builds. You know what? You can use this to extend cables. I've actually had a very large ATX case, and the EPS connector wasn't long enough on the power supply. So I clipped the wires, I soldered in 2 more, and I heat shrunk them. It takes another 15 minutes, but then you don't have to go buy cable extensions for some of those kind of crazy things. So absolutely great point, Jonathan, there. I'm going to switch over here to the top down view. I'm going to do a quick unboxing now that I've got my mat all covered in solder stuff. Let me go zoom in a little bit here. So this is the FM radio unit. You're going to need a soldering iron. Most of the iron kits, like the one I showed you before, will actually work. Let's go ahead and unbox it and see exactly what you get in this little unit. Now, you're going to have a couple resistors here, and there is a color code on resistors, so you can't just put them wherever they go. This is going to come there. So it'll tell you which ones to use, I'm almost certain. Let's go ahead and take this out. Here we go. So this is a bag of all of the individual components. Let me see if I can get this up close and personal for you guys. Like I said, it actually does come with some pretty interesting stuff. So this one right here, if you guys can see that, is actually a headphone jack connector. So you're going to find the place on this board where that headphone jack connector goes through, and you're going to solder it with those 5 little pads here. Hopefully you guys can see that. So right there, those 5 little pads that's sticking through, you're going to solder it. So it should be a very quick job. We've got some capacitors in here. There we go. So there's some ceramic. This is the one IC, the integrated circuit that they send you. Look how small that guy is. So definitely use a set of tweezers that you got out of your other kit. Let me show you again what I'm talking about. I wish I don't carry change anymore. Do you guys carry change? That would be kind of interesting to put this next to something that you guys are used to seeing. Let me see if I got a battery. Of course, no. I put all that stuff away right before the show. Get it all cleaned up in here. Don't have any extra batteries laying around, but yeah, that's how small this chip is. Don't lose it. That's my only recommendation, is don't lose that chip, because it is tiny. There's my wedding ring. You can see it's barely as wide as my wedding ring, and it has what, 16 contacts that we have to solder down. So that's going to be a challenge for me. That's something I'm going to learn. We also have these surface mount buttons. So these will go through that circuit board and then get soldered down. Luckily, they're shaped so that it looks like they're only going to go in one way. So that's another really cool thing. It's going to have a battery basket here to carry your batteries. So this runs off of 2 AA batteries. And again, it's an electronic project kit, so we can try that out. Another interesting thing is we had that power supply over here. This is where you might need 3 volts, and you might just want to power it off of a power supply. So that's where you would use a bench power supply. It's going to come with some zip ties, because it looks like, if I remember right, the circuit, when it's done, mounts to the back of the battery compartment. So when we finish this later tonight, we're going to mount that. We're going to loop it through. So you're going to looking at, probably 15 to 20 pieces for, so about 15 pieces to solder on. It does have right here, this little tiny one you're not going to want to lose. It's got a little baby crystal. So that little tiny crystal is what's going to be a tuner, or going to provide that base reference signal, and then it's going to tune in. So with this mat here, I'll go ahead and tilt down just a little bit. You can see how that works. I can actually set my components maybe in the order that I want to put them in at, or group like things together. I can take large ones and put them up there. I thought I had 2 of these. Yep, 2 capacitors. Then we got the ceramic ones here. I don't see any diodes. It's kind of interesting. And then I've got my resistors. I can put them up here along with my IC. So there you go. So that's where this can come in handy. Just taking a look real quick. Oh, perfect. Pause the video if you need help getting your color codes for your resistors. So when you read your resistor colors, there's little tiny colored bands here. And we're going to challenge my side camera tonight. Can you see those colors? Look at that. So there's little colored bands on this one. They could be exactly the same color resistor, but then have different bands, and there they are. And if you read it, right, left, right, whatever the value is, it's going to have the different range that this thing is. So it's going to tell you if it's 250 ohm, 1500 ohms, a bunch more different values are available. Thank you, RJ, on that one. I appreciate it. So Jonathan's checking in. Jonathan Talks Hardware. He comes in and says, I also want to cut the cord from an Optiplex case and solder to a custom power button that you let go. There you go. I love that. Depends on if it's a 4-band or 5-band resistor. 4th band is the multiplier. Okay, very cool. So that's coming from RJ. A lot of guys helping out tonight. So this looks like a really interesting product, but it's going to take me more than the time we have on the show tonight to solder this in. And I'm going to get some help from my friends on the Discord. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this up. If you do want to continue Craft Computing's Discord, it's $1 a month. We're not on Amazon, so I can finally say that. If you want to join his Discord, somebody can put the link in YouTube if you want. You're welcome to do that. The $1 a month is the troll tax. We'll see if people are open over there. I'll go be working in this. He's got a lot of cool maker stuff with 3D printers and other stuff. But thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Like I said, links for all of these are in the video description. When this is finished, I will clip in the last little bit about this and show a demo of it. So keep an eye out on my channel. You can definitely subscribe to my channel. I can never say that on Amazon. And Pinky Tech says, yeah, 3 weeks from now, radio is ready. Isn't it past your bedtime over there? It's like 11 something or whatever. You know how it goes. But I appreciate you guys all for checking in. It's a late night Friday stream. I was missing the Tuesday stream. And I said, I'll just hook it up and be here on Friday. I got a busy weekend of stuff, but I might try to go live again. I do have some really cool products coming up. One, got to thank the Wise company. I'll be wearing these because I want to talk to you guys. The Wise gaming headset is really cool. I use this on Wednesday night. After party was really cool. I used that. That worked great. Also got some other products from Gamdius. I've got their Talos E3 mesh case. They also sent me a fan kit, some other cool stuff. So if you want to do some PC builds on a Friday night or something, let me know and we can do that. But this is John the Net Guy. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Like I said, you can hit me up in the Craft Computing Discord. I'm going to finish up here and start doing some assembly over there and then get totally hazed by my friends. So thank you all, and I will catch you all in the next one.